Every single day, the world burns through over 100 million barrels of oil. It's a number so big, it's almost impossible to picture. But what if I told you that a massive chunk of that, over 60%, is consumed by just 10 countries? This isn't just a list, it's a story about a huge shift in global power. We're about to break down the definitive 2024 ranking of the planet's biggest oil users, from the nations that have dominated for decades to the new giants who are completely reshaping our world. For over a century, how much oil a country uses has been a pretty reliable sign of its economic health. It's the fuel that powers factories, moves products, and keeps cars on the road. A country's thirst for oil directly reflects its industrial strength, its economic pulse, and the lifestyle of its people. But the map of who's using the most is changing, and it's changing fast. Starting at number 25 is the Netherlands, a critical trade and refining hub in Europe that uses around 850,000 barrels per day. Right behind are countries like number 24, Malaysia, number 23, Australia, and number 22, Turkey, which each burn through about 1 million barrels daily, thanks to transportation needs and growing industries. Next up are the traditional European powers, 21, Spain, number 20, Italy, and number 19, France. These are all mature economies where cars and trucks are the main driver of oil demand. They represent the old guard, still major users, but their demand has largely flatlined. Climbing the list, we hit number 18, the United Arab Emirates, and number 17, Singapore. The UAE is a top producer that also uses a lot of its own oil, while tiny Singapore is a global giant in refining and petrochemicals. And at number 16, we have the United Kingdom. A historic economic power, its consumption has cooled off as it moves toward a post-industrial economy and makes a stronger push for green energy than some of its peers. The major economic powers, number 15 through 4. Now we're getting into the heavyweights, nations whose oil habits are big enough to move global markets all by themselves. At number 15 is Indonesia, the Southeast Asian giant whose massive population and growing economy all but guarantee high demand for years to come. Next is number 14, Mexico, a major oil producer in its own right with a large manufacturing sector that's deeply tied to the North American economy. At number 13, we find Iran. Even with sanctions, its large population and subsidized fuel prices keep it among the world's top consumers of its own enormous oil reserves. Germany lands at number 12. As the industrial engine of Europe, its world-class manufacturing sector needs a ton of energy, though it's also making an aggressive shift toward renewables. At number 11 is South Korea, a nation that built itself into a global tech and manufacturing powerhouse, relying almost entirely on imported oil to power its exports. Breaking into the top 10 is number 10, Canada. It's a unique case, a G7 economy that's also one of the world's top 5 oil producers. Its huge size and energy-hungry industries, like the oil sands, give it a very high consumption per person. At 9 is Brazil, a commodity superpower with over 200 million people. Its demand is driven by a mix of transportation and a booming agricultural and industrial base. In the number 8 spot, we have Japan. As the world's 4th largest economy, its advanced industrial base needs a huge amount of energy. But, like other developed nations, its oil use has been slowly declining because of an aging population and a big push for efficiency. Now we're entering the top tier of energy politics. At number 7, we have the petrostate that has shaped the oil market for half a century, Saudi Arabia. The world's 2nd largest producer is also a massive consumer, using its own cheap oil, about 3.6 million barrels a day, to power its grid, run huge desalination plants, and fuel its society. At number 6 is the Russian Federation. Another energy superpower, Russia is built a top 3 producer and a top 6 consumer.
Its vast territory, cold climate, and heavy industry add up to a daily habit of around 3.5 million barrels.
Coming in at number 3 is the nation set to define the future of global energy demand, India. Using roughly 5.6 million barrels per day, India has become the world's fastest-growing major oil consumer. For years, that title belonged to China. But in 2024, India's rate of growth is the highest in the world. The International Energy Agency predicts India will be the largest source of oil demand growth through 2030, adding another million barrels per day to its total by then. This incredible expansion is driven by a perfect storm of factors: strong economic growth, rapid urbanization, and a rising middle class that's buying cars and consuming more goods.
Unlike in the West, where demand is flat or falling, India's story is all about the climb. Demand for fuel for trucks, cars, and cooking is soaring. Diesel alone, which is crucial for industry and trucking, makes up a third of its total oil use, a clear sign of a nation busy building its future. For the global oil market, India is the most important story for the next decade.
In the number 2 spot is the country that has dominated the energy conversation for 20 years, the People's Republic of China. At around 16.4 million barrels per day, China's consumption is nearly 3 times India's. For most of this century, China's need for oil seemed endless as it became the world's workshop.
But in 2024, the story got more complicated. China's oil demand growth slowed down. One of the biggest reasons is the mind-blowing rise of electric vehicles. EVs now make up about half of all new car sales in China, a trend that's finally starting to put a dent in gasoline demand. Slower economic growth is also a factor. However, don't mistake a slowdown for a decline. China's demand for oil in the petrochemical sector, to make plastics, textiles, and other materials, is still growing strong. It remains the world's biggest oil importer, and its massive scale means that even tiny shifts in its economy send huge ripples across the globe. China is a complex giant, leading the EV revolution with one hand while remaining a cornerstone of oil demand with the other.
And at number 1, still the undisputed king of consumption, is the United States. Burning through roughly 19 million barrels of oil every single day, the U.S. consumes nearly 19% of the world's total. To put that in perspective, America uses more oil than the entire European Union combined.
An incredible 70% of the oil used in the U.S. goes into the gas tanks of cars, trucks, and planes. Industry, including making plastics, accounts for another 24%. What do you think? Will the EV boom in China and the West be enough to cancel out the huge growth in demand we're seeing from India? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you found this breakdown of the world's energy landscape useful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching.